With an unyielding force and a furious roar, the Atlantic Ocean lashes out, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Since June 2022, our team has been tirelessly on the ground, delving into the heart of the escalating erosion crisis that plagues Lagos State, Nigeria.
Do you know how many trees were here? 350 trees along this coast, just this area alone. Coconut trees. Giving coconut every time. How many are left? Because of the erosion. And we said, come and do something in time. Anyway, it's not too late. It must be done. It must be done.
The World Bank's alarming statistics paint a grim picture. Over 55 million Africans teeter on the edge, residing within a perilous 10 meters of sea level. Each passing year, 500,000 people in West Africa bear the brunt of relentless coastal erosion. Entire communities are disappearing, yet this urgent crisis remains shrouded in the shadows of public attention. In our pursuit of truth, we've excavated the depths of this predicament, exposing its roots and the catastrophic toll it takes on Nigeria's bustling commercial capital. Nestled along the sprawling coastline of Lagos lies a community with a name that resonates with resilience: Okun Alpha. Our first visit into this enclave, dating back to August 2022, unfurled a chilling tale of the unforgiving ocean surges. The walls of this house, once sturdy guardians of familial memories, had already been partially dismantled. Mary, a custodian of countless stories within these walls, found herself at a crossroads. Just weeks before our encounter, the relentless forces of the ocean left her with no choice but to abandon the place she called home.
I'm living here, let's say more than 15 years now. And the water is very far to the house. I can't even point at where the water was when I came. I can't even point at it now. But gradually, the water is coming closer, until last week, it got worse. So I have to pass window, jump out to the room, because there's no frontage to come out again.
2 months later, we visited this community again, and the very essence of Mary's home in Okun Alpha had been swallowed whole by the Atlantic Ocean. The erasure was complete, a stark testament to the appetite of coastal erosion, erasing not just homes, but the very foundations of cherished communities.
As you can see, the last time you came, the house is still far from the water is still far from the house, but now the water have carried the house away. And soon now, the way the water is coming faster, you can get to the express at any time. Now I don't have a way to stay. I'm hanging around with my friends, and the government are pleading on behalf of everybody. Government should do something about it. Otherwise, the rich also cry.
Fast forward to November 2023, and the situation in Okun Alpha had taken a turn for the worse, reaching an even more alarming state. I barely recognized the community I had become familiar with. The visual narrative is a powerful one, underscoring the gravity of the crisis. In this distressingly short span of time, several meters of once vibrant land had been irrevocably claimed by the encroaching sea.
I was worried, we put the money in the wrong place.
A stalwart figure in the battle against environmental degradation, Desmond Majekodumi, the founder of Lufasi Park Nature Reserve, and a dedicated environmentalist, has been a familiar presence in the folds of Okun Alpha for many years.
We were expecting something like this, but we didn't know it would be so dramatic because of the El Nino system that has now come in on top of the global warming, the climate change. And the oceans absorb a tremendous amount of that extra heat of the global warming. And when the water gets more heated up, it gets more energetic. So the energy of the wave forms has been unprecedented. We've seen very, very rapid deterioration here, but never as rapid as this.
In the intricate dance of cause and effect, climate change certainly asserts its influence. Yet, at the heart of Lagos's erosion predicament lies the indelible mark of human activity. The tale unfolds over a century, tracing its origins to the ambitious endeavours of British colonial authorities. Their vision materialised in the dredging of the Lagos harbour, an ambitious project that birthed two formidable moles, etching the blueprint for port development. A glance at this Google Earth satellite image pinpoints the exact locations of these historical moles. Spanning over a tumultuous period between 1892 and 1946, which included 2 world wars, the British strategically carved out ports along this very coastline, ushering in a new era of economic trade and reshaping the destiny of Lagos. In the complex web of environmental changes, the Nigerian Institute for Oceanography and Marine Research has been a vigilant sentinel, closely monitoring the unfolding developments over the years.
Constructing these groins is to prevent the silting of the Lagos Lagoon because it's a harbor channel. If they do not construct those groins, there will be a lot of silting, a lot of sand in the channel that will make vessels to ground.
The construction of these moles that have contributed to the economic advancement of Lagos have inadvertently played a pivotal role in exacerbating coastal erosion in the state. The intricate flow of sand and sediment, once guided by the natural west to east drift along the West African coast, now encounters an abrupt halt. Trapped on the west side of the Port of Lagos, these vital materials are denied their historical journey.
On the western side, that is the Lighthouse Beach environment, we have accretion of sand, a lot of sediments there. But on the eastern side, which we call the downdrift side, we have no sand. We have a natural system which we call the Avon Canyon. Avon Canyon is north of the Lekki environment, getting to the Ogun State coastal environment. And that serves as a natural chute for sediments which the ocean waves washes to go into. The canyon is like 100 meters deep and it cannot fill up yet. So all these factors, when they pile onto each other, will cause the whole of the Lagos coastline to be starved of sediment.
Information provided by researchers from the Nigeria Meteorological Agency states that between 1990 and 2002, 18 different ocean surge events were recorded in Victoria Island. Ocean surges like formidable titans battered Bar Beach, an iconic stretch along the coast of the Victoria Island business and financial district. The inevitable surrender to the forces of nature finally transpired in 2005. Concrete units had been strategically deployed in the water, a preliminary measure to shield the troubled coastline. However, it became undeniably clear that a more enduring solution was imperative. Echo Atlantic stands as a groundbreaking project, boldly occupying 10 million square meters of reclaimed land. The idea was birthed in 2003, and when construction started in 2008, the stakes were not merely measured in structural damage. An estimated 460 billion naira in yearly rental revenue hung in precarious balance. Spearheaded by South Energy X Nigeria, a subsidiary of the Shaguri Group, the development of Eco Atlantic is not merely a testament to Lagos's growth, but the city is promoted as an ambitious solution to the persistent menace of ocean surges.
Due to the intervention of then Governor Tinubu, now Mr. President, and the successive administrations with the Eco Atlantic reclamation project, that erosion stopped, and now there's, of course, economic opportunities in the Eco Atlantic.
Constructed alongside Eco Atlantic, the Great Wall of Lagos stands as a counterpart, a defensive barrier with a reported lifespan of 1,000 years, designed to protect the new city and adjacent communities, curbing further land depletion from the Nigerian coastline. However, amidst the development of Eco Atlantic and its protective wall, a discordant note emerges from the chorus of climate and environmental experts.
Based on the data that we have and based on satellite images, I must say that the Eco Atlantic construction saved VI. There's no gainsaying about that. I mean, we can say it is very obvious. But the problem was pushed eastwards. And that is why we saw, after that construction started, we see the erosion that started taking place all the way from Elegushi. Now we are seeing the impact, especially around Lafia-Okunafa axis. So the VI was saved, but Lekki has been threatened as it is now.
Land reclamation is a major source of land degradation there. But what is worse in Lagos is that the land reclamation is done in many instances without good planning and without good environmental assessment of the impact of that land reclamation that is being done.
The sheer magnitude of Eco Atlantic's land reclamation endeavor necessitates the extraction of an extensive volume of sand and sedimentary material from the ocean bed. The scale of dredging activities required for a project of this size is nothing short of monumental, and its ecological ramifications cast a long shadow over the coastal landscape. Over the past 18 months, our efforts to engage in a constructive dialogue with the key stakeholders, South Energy X Nigeria Limited, have been met with silence as they decline to offer any commentary on the criticisms directed towards the new coastal city.
When people sandfill areas, we think that we are absorbing the water. That's the erroneous mistake or erroneous conception that people have. That's a very strong misconception. What we do is that we are displacing the water. And when we have so much water running around and there's no place for this water to go to, especially when they have been, the areas that they were traditionally has been sandfilled, what happens is that they go back to where they were, but this time around the place are already developed. And that was why instances where we saw the flooding that took place, especially in 2017, people's posh houses, posh cars were all submerged because all of these areas have been sandfilled.
The infrastructure in Eco Atlantic has been built by specialist companies who've got huge amount of experience in building land reclamation projects. If I look at the infrastructure around the seawall, for example, it is really, really robust. And if you go and speak to the people who did that design and are currently completing the building of it, it's really intended to take into account sea level rise and, of course, increase violence of storms. And, you know, they're building this to last a couple of 100 years. So I think Eco Atlantic is a world-class project. I don't think we have to have any concerns about that.
This project is not the sole protagonist in Lagos's ambitious saga of land reclamation. It shares the stage with several other transformative developments, including the illustrious Banana Island, an enclave perched on over 1.6 million square meters of reclaimed land. According to the Lagos State Special Advisor on Electronic Geographic Systems and Urban Development of the Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development, projects like this are helping to close the housing gap in the state.
Whether it adds to the ocean pressure or not, we must close the housing gap. So Lagos is already limited and we are all bounded by water. The experts you stated what the experts say is the disadvantage. But there's nothing that you do right in engineering terms that will not stand the test of time. We have done all the environmental impact assessments, we have done all the geotechnical, everything that we need to do has been done before we come up with the project. If people in Banana Island stuck to the banana and then not try to turn it into an orange by reclaiming areas that were not candidate sites for reclamation, we will not be having any disadvantage from Banana Island. It was a well-conceived project. They brought in Julius Berger, brought in a lot of experts from all over, and it was done well. And what Lagos State is trying to control is further reclamation of land around the Banana Island axis, because it is the further reclamation that is the problem.
Venturing further down the dynamic Lagos coast, the landscape transforms into the expanding canvas of the Lekki Free Zone. This special economic zone is designed to catalyze economic activities on a grand scale. And notably, a portion of this expansive zone has been meticulously developed on reclaimed land.
The Lekki Free Trade Zone is a properly well-conceived, well-planned project. Do you understand? And what we should guide against is to guide against any form of sprawl that may be encouraged in the future by legislation. We should try as much as possible to make sure that the plan for that area is legislated upon such that somebody does not come after this administration and say, oh, we are going to extend it just simply because you want more land. No.
Ayan Adam, in her capacity as the Senior Director and CEO of AFC Capital Partners at the Africa Finance Corporation, a prominent multilateral finance institution, brings a wealth of experience to her role. Before assuming her current position, she worked with the United Nations Green Climate Fund.
We can see that there is a rapid increase in sea rise as a result of the current 1.2 degrees Celsius that we're in. At 1.2, we're seeing that the rise of the sea level is increasing at a very fast pace. So in addition to this level of warming, because when the temperature changes in the aquifers, and it's not just the coastal side, but it's also rivers, what you see is that the natural habitat are not used to those changes in the temperature. In addition to that, in the Lagos state, is that with more demand for the land in the sea areas, you have more construction happening, sand being taken out of those areas. So the combination of the sea rise, and this sea rise is not just water going up, it actually comes with a significant pressure. And that pressure is much more severe than the forces of even human construction.
The Nigerian Environmental Impact Assessment Act of 1992 stands as a pivotal legal framework mandating the evaluation of environmental effects before granting authorization for any project. This legislation serves as a cornerstone in the conscientious management of development initiatives, aiming to strike a balance between progress and environmental preservation. However, some projects appear to have started without approved environmental impact assessments. For example, it is documented that reclamation activities for Eco Atlantic started in 2008. But the EIA for the new city was submitted to the Federal Ministry of Environment in November 2011 and approved in January 2012.
Basically, before you are approved to reclaim any land in Lagos State, the law requires you to do your environmental impact assessment. So you have to work with about 3 MDAs, the Ministry of the Waterfront and Infrastructure, the Ministry of Environment and Water Resources, and the Ministry of Fiscal Planning. So it's a prerequisite for you to even redo reclamation that you must obtain the EIA.
While affirming the necessity of obtaining EIA approval before commencing construction, the Lagos State Commissioner for Environment faced challenges in providing additional details regarding the initiation of reclamation activities for Eco Atlantic prior to EIA approval.
I won't speak to what I'm not aware of. As I speak, I'm not aware of what you just said. So if I speak to it, I'll be speaking to what I'm not aware of the facts.
Nigeria's dredging laws also play a crucial role in regulating activities that involve the extraction of sand and sediments from water bodies.
So anything that really changes the natural ecosystem would have an impact. So if you're taking sand that is home to coastal area, which has properties that were more able to absorb water or, circulate water in a different way, of course that's going to contribute further to water even moving further in on communities that are living in those areas.
We cannot just dredge without understanding the coastal processes, what it will mean to the other side of the environment. So we should be concerned about the ways through which areas are dredged.
Illegal dredging is also posing a significant threat to the delicate balance of Lagos's coastal ecosystems. Recognizing the gravity of this issue, the government has been actively working to tackle these activities.
As an authority, we have put in place a lot of controls so that we don't have much of it. With time, it will be eradicated completely. But for now, what we are doing is we need serious monitoring, surveillance. Some of them go in the night to dredge just because they don't want to go through the process of getting their permits. We have made it so simple to take permits from National Inland Waterways so that it will not be maybe because they have applied and it's taking years, that is why they resort into illegality. No. Within 1 month, within 2 weeks, depending, you will get your permit and you will dredge legally.
If you can't enforce your laws and your regulations, that means it becomes an Obatian state where life becomes nasty, brutish, and short. So I believe we should be bold enough to enforce the laws with respect to illegal dredging. And then that sends the signal. Whilst we're doing that, we should also ramp up advocacy. So people can see something and say something.
There is also a large community of artisanal miners in Lagos who manually extract sand and sediment from water bodies.
Ọjọ́ tán bá gbéra yín báyìí nísìn kan tó lè dé ọ̀hún pẹ̀lú ọkọ̀ yìí wọ́n gbọ́dọ̀ lò 2 hours. Yẹ kó ní ẹ̀ tán gbà lórí ọkọ̀ kan. Èyí tí ó bá ti mú yẹn dání gan àpá wọn máa sì irinṣẹ́ sílẹ̀. Èyí tó bá ti mú yẹn lọ ló máa gba irinṣẹ́ tán bá sì wọ́n lè sì ṣọ́fẹ̀. Wọ́n lè yọ nǹkan nú ọkọ̀ ẹ̀ tó bá ti mú yẹn lọ á dá padà fún un. Tá bá ti ń wà ní bíi November àbí October mi yẹn máa ń kún wá tó bá ti kún wá àwọn ibi tí wọ́n ti bù yẹn ló máa dé padà. Gbogbo ibi tómi wà tó dò wà tó ti ń ṣàn wọnú ọ̀sà yìí tí ilẹ̀ kan máa gbé tó máa gbé wọnú ẹ̀ ló máa dé àwọn ojú ibẹ̀ yẹn.
Many of these artisans and suppliers assert their legitimacy and say they are supported by the government.
Iṣẹ́ ìyẹ̀pẹ̀ títà ni mò ń ṣe. Mo jẹ́ ọ̀kan lára ọmọ ẹgbẹ́ níwà. So wọ́n recognize iṣẹ́ wa dáadáa. Náà a kì í ṣe illegal. Kódà gọ́ọ̀mẹ̀ntì fún wa, wọ́n fọwọ́ sí a ní ID card pẹ̀lú wọn tó máa ń ṣe fún wa lọ́dọọdún. A dẹ̀ ń sanwó táàkì wa náà.
Sometimes when you don't have people to hold responsible for something bad, it might be difficult to control. So just like we form association of boat owners so that you can be able to manage them well. That's how they form the association of sand sellers and sand miners.
The repercussions of human activities extend to businesses situated on the coastline, particularly affecting notable establishments like Jarrah Beach Resorts. A beloved retreat for tourists and Lagosians alike seeking respite from the hustle and bustle of the city, this coastal haven is now under significant threat. Jumbo construction sacks, scaffolding mesh, and 5,000 pieces of bamboo have been placed here along this 100-meter beachfront at Jarrah Beach Resort. The problem started earlier, but in August 2023, ocean surges pulled down the entire wall at this property. This protection is a cost-effective, eco-friendly approach, and it's proven effective so far. Beach tourism stands as a vital economic engine in Lagos, with numerous resorts dotting the coastline. I had the opportunity to sit down with Mark Slade. He and his wife established Jarrah Beach Resort in 2019, driven by their continuous visits to the beach in this area known as Eleko. Their vision was to create a permanent destination for relaxation and recreation. Yet, the ongoing threats of coastal erosion now cast a shadow over the sustainability of their endeavor. When you opened Jarrah Beach Resort, were you aware of just how serious coastal erosion has been in Lagos in recent years?
So when we were putting together our business plan and our case for this venture, frankly speaking, it didn't play a part as much as we wish it had now. At the time of November 2019, we had around 20-25 meters of sand beach before it dropped down to the ocean, which is very similar to what we'd experienced in the 2-3 years prior. So nothing really stood out to us as something we should be worried about. And then subsequently, things got pretty drastic pretty quickly. From April, when the rain started, through to August, we went from having the water right up to our wall, right up to our boundary wall. It impacted our boundary wall specifically, and on a particular day in August, removed the wall completely. That's when it was about as drastic as it could get. So we instantly worked to rebuild, to reinforce. We implemented a wave barrier, which we're fairly confident will give us a short-term safety net. But again, this is a long-term problem.
Regrettably, the Slade's business venture may not realize the longevity they once envisioned, as the powerful force of the ocean presents an existential threat.
So there's dredging happening at both ends of the coastline. Actively, that's disturbing the wave patterns, the ocean bed in a very aggressive way on a daily basis. And then there are global warming challenges, of course, that's well known and well documented. But it definitely feels that it's, and of course, from our side, again, this year was the rainy season.
Furthermore, about 150 meters away from the vibrant landmark beach strip in Oniru, a dredging ship has been situated in the waters since September 2023. I presented footage of this ship to the Lagos area manager of the National Inland Waterways Authority.
Yes, it's a dredging ship. It's not my area of jurisdiction because it is port approach. Ocean, anything ocean is not under National Inland Waterways. But because I'm an engineer, I can just tell you that this dredger is there, but it's not dredging from that location. It is an upper dredger. You understand? So a dredger is working and delivering sand. You understand? They are not dredging from where they are positioned.
Sand filling activities close to the landmark coastline are likely to affect businesses here.
Yeah, when you sand fill, it means that you are removing sand from one portion to the other. And removing sand from one portion to the other means you are creating a space from sand to move back to, isn't it? And that could affect structures which are lined up, along the coast, haphazardly.
An unnamed source working in this community spoke to us under the condition of anonymity.
This dredger has been there for over 6 months, and I mean it. Earlier last year, that was 2023, so we noticed this big dredgers, about 3 then. But one was working constantly. Later on, we discovered that that one stopped. And that was when they brought this bigger one, because this one is a bit bigger than those ones I'm talking about. So and since then, we've been operating day and night. When you see a very big dredger like this, move this way, it will pack sand, then go towards my front here. You do as if they are going to Oneru, and you'll be seeing that thing pouring out the sand. So there's no need for us to be asking or something. Something that I saw is an I saw, something that's very clear. When you look towards my front here, you will discover that they're about to fill the whole water. They are about to get the whole water filled. Once they succeed in doing all these things, believe me, there won't be water again. When there's no water, that means there won't be anything like a beach any longer.
The complex interplay of factors, including local hydrodynamics, urbanization, and human activities, contributes significantly to the erosion issues faced by Lagos.
We do have also a competition between the oceans and people wanting to have more space to live on the seafront. So you have many communities that are being affected. But more importantly, the fact that we're also dirtying that water. And that further exacerbates the level of erosion in these waters. But we also have to be mindful and educate everyone about the impacts not of climate, but also what is our human activity and how do we reduce the pressures that we are having on our coastal line.
While there is much criticism directed at Eco Atlantic City, the developers have taken a proactive step in addressing the impact of erosion by developing an independent drainage network through a canal system and a reservoir designed to regulate the flow of water.
There are many cities that have looked at this, that have had water issues. Netherlands has done that, so you would see middle of the cities like kind of waterways coming in, and that it releases that pressure. But the structures can only go so far. And that's why I call for significant look at the resilience of Lagos as a city. The water will continue to rise as we continue to warm. It will change in characteristics in terms of the acidity or lack of acidity. We would have biodiversity losses as we go forward. The population is still going bigger, and there's a lot of young people, so they will need a place to live and to enjoy, because it is still the financial center in Africa's largest country.
Lagos will certainly require a comprehensive approach to tackle the multifaceted challenges posed by erosion.
With the way that the population of Lagos is rising, a lot of the places that are being designed are being redesigned to accommodate the population. Sometimes the redesign is not even done by the government. The redesign is done by the Omoniles. They've gone to sell land to people. What do you want us to do about that? As a government, we'll try as much as possible to control the impact of what the Omonile can do. But you should also understand the fact that maybe they also have a claim to the land, and it says their family land or their ancestral land. Is the reason why sometimes we do land regularization or we do village excision and a couple of all those things. But the poor urban planning is not necessarily coming from government. Sometimes it's accidental.
It's quite clear that contraventions, planning contraventions, in other words, building close to setbacks or on setbacks, are illegal. Any structures in those areas are subject to penalties and demolition. And I'm afraid to say that the government is going to have to take action in those cases.
As you approach the shoreline in Okun Alpha, the landscape reveals several houses under construction. In the backdrop of Lagos experiencing a housing crisis, a significant concern arises. Are buyers of these properties aware of the imminent threat of the ocean as it rapidly erodes this community?
Any planning that comes out of the Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development The answer can never be seen as a poor plan. We may make mistakes, but those mistakes are definitely not poor planning. You know, I can go on and on and on about, you know, the subject that you've just put in front of me, but I want to tell you that in Lagos State, we are doing everything humanly possible to ensure that we build right in a green way.
So what we say to Lagosians, before you go commit your fund to any, ask for the requisite documents, the planning, the drainage clearance, the land title itself, and you should verify from the appropriate MDAs if those things are genuine. So we just say to Lagosians, beware.
Concerns particularly expressed by organizations like the Nigerian Conservation Foundation highlight the need for comprehensive solutions that address vulnerable areas like Okun Alpha.
We had mangroves and coastal vegetation that help in breaking the currents of the ocean. So when these vegetation have been removed, then we will start talking about brown infrastructures, and that is where the groins come in. So what the groins are trying to do is to replicate or to mimic what the vegetation used to do.
Some experts argue that the design of the groins is the problem here, and it's actually just exacerbating erosion further down the coast. Others say more groins need to be placed in Lagos further down the coast to protect the rest of the coast. So if we're looking at just 7 to 8 kilometers of groins, what scenario are we looking at here? Are the groins helping or are they hurting?
So groins will help based on the current level of rise and the pressure of that water. So even if you look at projects like Eco Atlantic, you would see that the groins haven't helped 100%. They still had to put in water reservoirs to release water, and then the water recirculates back. And even with that, it looks like we're still adding more physical stone-like structures. But the reality is that can only support a certain level of mild water rise and very mild pressure. So you could build a structure that the water can come through.
The groin fields that have been created, mostly along the Lagos coastline, have been created without understanding, how it ought to be placed. For example, at Alpha Beach, there are a series of groins that have been created perpendicular to the coastline. And these do not have cross groins. So when the wave hits the groins, it deflects, or there is refraction, and intensify and go to hit the surrounding areas, in a more severe way, and it's causing a lot of erosion. When the groin system of this Alpha Beach and the Victoria Island Beach was created, it took a long time, more than 20 years before the real impact of erosion was felt. So the Alpha Beach has just started. Erosion rates are going to increase. A lot of houses are going to be inside the ocean. A lot of streets are going to be washed, and it's going to continue until something is done to stop the whole process.
Alarming projections from the Nigerian Conservation Foundation highlight a critical scenario.
22 meters were eroded from between the 14th of April 2018 and the 6th of July 2018. 22 meters were gone.
So in 3 months?
In 3 months, 22 meters. We lost 22 meters. So as at 25th of August, when we did this modeling, as at 25th of August, this red line this is now the ocean. From this red line to this point is the ocean. So with all of these homes you are seeing, all of these houses, these are shanties of people who are living here. We have some humans living there. So all of these parts are all completely gone. So, as I said, this is the reference house, and between that year, in 4 years, I think 2018 and 2022, we've lost 128 meters. So all of these places have been eroded. So now, based on our projection, the projection of the least distance the sea will have eroded to is, so if we take 128 meters from here to here, by 2026, this is where it will be at. By the time it gets here, this is the Sandfield area, this is the LCC, the expressway is somewhere in front here. So by the time it gets here, all of these places are low-lying. The water will have just a few days and flow freely into the expressway. And that is why we're saying that this scenario projection is based on the fact that other conditions, that water level, wave intensity, height of the beachhead, etc., remain the same. However, from what we know, by the time the erosion continues for another 50 meters, it will be on the flat ground, which means that there will be a free flow of ocean towards the Lekki Expressway, submerging everything in its path. So these we are projecting to happen latest 2024. Yes, if everything are based on our projection. And that is why this is a wake-up call to everyone, everybody responsible to do. It's not just the government, the resident association, everybody around here needs to wake up to that responsibility.
In the absence of viable solutions, it appears to only be a matter of time until various communities and businesses in Lagos face complete submersion.
The Nigerian Institute for Oceanography and Marine Research have the mandate nationally to monitor the shoreline, the near-shore environment, the offshore environment, and the surrounding coastal environment of the whole of the Nigerian coastline. And because we've been monitoring this thing systematically, we know areas along the Nigerian coastal environment that are hotspots. And the Barrier Lagoon system, which is the Lagos environment, is the #1 hotspot with the highest rate of erosion, even in Africa. We have established the fact that anything you construct on the coastline, the eastern portion will be highly eroded. But this has not sunk into the policy makers or the government, for them to take proactive steps to stop it.
With over 850 kilometers of coastline at stake, there is a pressing demand for cohesive initiatives, inventive strategies, and swift intervention to tackle the imminent danger of coastal erosion.
We've reached out to local government, we've reached out to state government. Unfortunately, having provided presentations, visuals of what's happened in the last 4 years, it was met with a response of it being more of a global issue as opposed to anything that Lagos State can do something about. And the reality is that even if it is singularly and solely a global issue, Lagos State is going to be incredibly affected. It already has been affected. Communities, housing, residents, individuals have had their livelihoods ripped away, and that will only continue.
So I think it's the investment in how do you protect. So you do need that data. And the frequency, the pressure of the water. You need to, there has to be a strong collaboration with the environmental ministry to look at this. I think there are efforts to look at Nigeria's Lagos state resilience as a whole. And I would think the coastal side would be the most important area to look at it in totality.
So the population of Lagos continues every day. Where do people stay? There's no other alternative than to see how you can reclaim as much of the land as possible. But I think the major challenge is that these reclamations are not being done with appropriate methodology and impact assessment required.
In the heart of Lagos, the coastal communities grapple with an escalating crisis of erosion, a relentless force reshaping the landscape. From Okun Alpha to the ambitious Eco-Atlantic project, the struggle to balance urban development with ecological preservation unfolds. Groins rise from the sea, reservoirs aim to control the waters, Yet the delicate dance between nature and human intervention remains precarious. Despite the urgent appeals of residents and businesses for effective solutions, the elusive resolution to this impending submersion persists. As we reflect on this unfolding narrative, it becomes evident that, in the end, nature will claim its territory, underscoring the need for sustainable practices and resilient strategies to harmonize with the formidable forces of the ocean. Laila Johnson-Salami, Arise News.